Cheating Story exposed the channel dedicated to intense real-life stories of deception, betrayal, and the pursuit of truth. Sometimes the worst betrayals aren't the ones you see coming. They're the ones orchestrated by the people you trusted most. I still remember the exact moment my life split into before and after. It was a Tuesday, September 14th, 3:47 in the afternoon. I know because I was staring at my phone when the email came through. The subject line read, "Notice of client contract termination. My name is Adrian Cole, and 6 months ago I had everything. A thriving consulting firm I'd built from nothing, a 15-year marriage, 2 kids, a corner office with a view that made other people jealous. I wasn't rich, but I was comfortable, successful, proud of what I'd accomplished. That Tuesday afternoon, sitting in my office, I watched everything start to crumble. The email was from Caldwell Industries, one of our biggest clients. They'd been with us for 8 years. Their account alone represented nearly 30% of our annual revenue. The message was brief, professional, cold. They were terminating their contract effective immediately. No explanation, no warning, just done. I sat there staring at the screen, trying to make sense of it. We just delivered a major project for them 2 weeks earlier. The feedback had been excellent. Their CEO had personally called to thank us. What the hell had changed? I called their office. My contact there, a woman named Patricia who I'd worked with for years, sounded uncomfortable, evasive. She kept saying it was a strategic business decision and she wasn't at liberty to discuss details. When I pressed harder, she finally said something that made my stomach drop. "Adrian, you should talk to Kyle, I think. I think he'll be able to explain this better than I can." Kyle Brennan, my business partner, the man I'd brought into the firm 6 years ago when we were expanding. He'd been my college roommate, one of my closest friends. We'd celebrated birthdays together. Our kids played together. Our wives were friends. I'd trusted him completely. I walked down the hall to his office. The door was closed, which was unusual. Kyle had this thing about open doors, about being accessible. I knocked, waited, then pushed it open. He was on the phone when he saw me. Something flickered across his face, just for a second. Guilt, maybe. Or fear, but then it was gone, replaced by his usual easy smile. He mouthed 1 minute and pointed to his phone. I waited, stood there in his doorway, listening to him wrap up a conversation about a transition timeline and ensuring continuity of service. When he hung up, I didn't waste time with pleasantries. Caldwell just terminated their contract. What do you know about it? Kyle leaned back in his chair, and I saw it again, that flicker. He was good at hiding it. But I'd known him for 20 years. Something was wrong. I heard about that. Yeah, Patricia called me this morning. I was going to talk to you about it, but what, Kyle? We just finished a major project for them. Their CEO called to personally thank us. Now they're terminating with no explanation. What happened between 2 weeks ago and today? He stood up, walked to his window, looked out at the parking lot below. When he turned back, his expression was carefully neutral. "Adrian, I think they're having some internal restructuring issues. Budget cuts. You know how it is. Sometimes these things happen, and Patricia told me to talk to you. She said you could explain it, so explain it." The silence stretched between us. I watched him calculate, weigh his options, decide how much to reveal. They approached me about potentially continuing the work under a different arrangement. The words hit me like cold water. What kind of arrangement? They want to work with me directly, not through the firm. They feel like the partnership structure isn't. I didn't let him finish. They want to work with you, not us, just you. Adrian, it's not personal. Did you encourage this, Kyle? Did you pitch yourself to them as an alternative to our firm? Another silence. Longer this time. I saw an opportunity. The firm isn't growing the way we need it to. You know that. We've been stagnant for 2 years. I thought if I could. You're stealing our clients. I'm not stealing anything. I'm pursuing legitimate business opportunities with our clients, Kyle. Clients that I brought in, that I've managed for years. You're poaching them. His jaw tightened. We're partners, Adrian, 50-50. Those are our clients, not yours, and if they prefer to work with me. I felt something cold settle in my chest. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't a mistake. This was calculated, deliberate. My best friend, my business partner, was systematically dismantling everything we'd built together. "How many others?" I asked quietly. He didn't answer. "How many other clients have you approached, Kyle?" "Adrian, listen. How many?" His composure cracked just a little. 4, maybe 5, but they came to me. I didn't. "You're lying. I can see it on your face. You've been planning this for how long? Months? A year?" 6 months, he said quietly. "Since you started having personal problems." Personal problems, that's what he called it. My marriage falling apart. The discovery that my wife, Lauren, had been having an affair with her tennis instructor. The divorce proceedings that had started 3 months ago. The custody battle. The late nights and distracted days as my entire personal life imploded. Kyle had been there through all of it. Supportive, understanding, telling me to take whatever time I needed. That he'd handle things at the office, that I could count on him. And the whole time, he'd been stealing my clients. "Get out of my office, Kyle. Adrian, we need to talk about." Get out, we'll let the lawyers handle this. He nodded slowly, picked up his jacket, walked to the door, then he stopped, turned back for what it's worth. I am sorry, but you've been checked out for months. The firm was suffering. I did what I had to do. After he left, I sat in his chair, in his office, and tried to process what had just happened. My marriage was destroyed. My business was being gutted from the inside, and the man I'd trusted like a brother had betrayed me as thoroughly as my wife had. I called my attorney, Olivia Mendez. She'd been handling my divorce, and she was good, sharp, aggressive, exactly what I needed. She answered on the second ring. Adrian, how are you holding up? Not great. I need to talk to you about something outside the divorce. It's about Kyle, my business partner. What about him? I explained everything, the terminated contracts, the client poaching, his admission that he'd been planning this for 6 months. When I finished, there was a long pause. That's potentially actionable, she said slowly. Breach of fiduciary duty, possibly fraud. We'd need to look at your partnership agreement, see what protections you have. Can you come in tomorrow, 9 a.m.? I'll be there. And Adrian, don't do anything rash. Don't confront him again. Don't send any angry emails. We need to handle this carefully. I agreed, hung up. Sat in the growing darkness of Kyle's office and wondered how my life had become such a complete disaster. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept running through memories, looking for warning signs I'd missed. Kyle's increased interest in client relationships, his suggestions that he take point on certain accounts, the way he'd encouraged me to take time off, to focus on my personal issues. He'd used my pain against me, used my divorce, my vulnerability, as cover to steal my business. Around 2 in the morning, I gave up on sleep and opened my laptop, started going through our firm's files, client communications, project histories, financial records. If Kyle had been planning this for 6 months, there had to be evidence. I found it in our shared calendar system. Starting about 7 months ago, Kyle had been taking client lunches I didn't know about. Meetings marked as business development that I'd assumed were new client prospects. But when I cross-referenced the names, they were all our existing clients. He'd been wining and dining them, building relationships, setting up his exit strategy. I made copies of everything, compiled it into a folder, sent it to myself at a personal email address, just in case. The next morning, I was at Olivia's office at 8:45. She had a corner suite in a glass tower downtown. Modern, expensive. The kind of place that charged by the quarter hour, but she was worth it. In my divorce proceedings, she'd been absolutely ruthless on my behalf. Her assistant showed me into her private conference room. Olivia arrived a few minutes later, carrying a leather portfolio and 2 cups of coffee. She handed me one, sat across from me, and opened her notebook. All right, let's talk about Kyle Brennan and how we're going to destroy his entire scheme. I almost smiled. That was pure Olivia, direct. Aggressive, completely on your side. We spent 2 hours going through everything. The partnership agreement, the client contracts, the evidence I'd collected. She took notes, asked sharp questions, and gradually built a picture of the legal battlefield ahead. Here's the situation, she finally said. Your partnership agreement has a non-solicitation clause. Kyle cannot directly solicit your clients for 12 months after leaving the firm, but, and this is important, if the clients approach him first, that's technically not solicitation. But he did approach them. I know he did. Proving it is going to be difficult unless we can get one of the clients to testify or find written communication where he made the first contact. It becomes he said, she said. I have his calendar, all those client lunches. That helps, but a lunch isn't solicitation by itself. He could argue he was maintaining client relationships on behalf of the firm. I felt frustration rising. So he's just going to get away with this. I didn't say that. I said it's going to be difficult, but difficult isn't impossible. We'll file an injunction. Prevent him from working with any of your clients until this is resolved. We'll depose him. Get him under oath. We'll request discovery on all his communications. If he's been plotting this, we'll find evidence. How long will that take? Months, maybe a year. These things move slowly. A year while my business bled out, while Kyle built his competing firm with my clients. While I paid legal fees I could barely afford because of my divorce, Olivia must have seen something in my face because her expression softened. Adrian, I know this is overwhelming, especially with everything else you're dealing with, but you're not alone in this. We're going to fight him, and we're going to win. I nodded, took a breath, tried to find that calm center I'd been surviving on for the past 3 months. What's next? I'll draft the complaint and the motion for preliminary injunction. We'll file by end of week. In the meantime, document everything, every client loss, every suspicious communication, every financial impact. We need to build an airtight case. I left her office feeling slightly better. At least I had a plan. At least I was taking action. That afternoon, another email, another client termination, then another the next day. By the end of the week, I'd lost 6 of my top 10 clients. My revenue had been cut by nearly 60%. I'd have to lay off staff, cut expenses, maybe even close the office and work from home. Kyle had gutted me. The divorce proceedings continued in parallel. Lauren wanted the house, half my retirement, alimony, full custody of our kids. Her attorney was pushing hard, trying to paint me as an absent father. Too focused on my career to be a good parent. It was all lies, but in family court, perception mattered as much as truth. Olivia handled both cases, the divorce and the business dispute. She was juggling a lot, but she never seemed overwhelmed, never seemed doubtful. She had this absolute confidence that radiated from her. It was part of what made her so good. 2 weeks after I discovered Kyle's betrayal, I had a meeting with Olivia to review discovery responses in my divorce. We were in her conference room again, going through financial disclosures. When her phone buzzed, she glanced at it, and I saw her expression change, just for a second, something like surprise. Or confusion. Everything okay? I asked. What? Yes, sorry, just unexpected message. Where were we? We continued. But I noticed she seemed distracted, kept glancing at her phone. Finally, about an hour into our meeting, she apologized. Adrian, I'm sorry, I need to step out for just a moment. Emergency with another client. 5 minutes. She left. I sat there, waiting, looking out at the city below from her conference room. You could see the river, the bridges. The late afternoon sun turning everything gold. Her phone buzzed again on the table. She'd left it behind. I wasn't trying to snoop, honestly, but it was sitting right there, face up. And when it lit up, I couldn't help but see the message preview. Tonight, same place, 8 p.m. The sender name was just a single letter. KK. My brain made the connection before I could stop it. Kyle, K for Kyle. No, that was crazy. Why would Kyle be texting my attorney? Unless my heart started pounding. I looked at the door. Olivia was still gone. The phone was right there. I shouldn't. It was wrong. It was unethical. It was probably illegal. I picked up the phone anyway. It wasn't locked. The message app was still open. I scrolled up, reading previous messages. Can't wait to see you. Last night was incredible. When are you telling him? Soon, just need to time it right. The messages went back weeks, flirty, intimate, sexual, and signed, all of them, with Kyle's name. My divorce attorney, the woman I was paying to protect my interests, was sleeping with Kyle, the man who was destroying my business. The man she was also representing me against in the partnership dispute. I felt like the floor had dropped out from under me. The door opened. Olivia walked back in, saw me holding her phone, and froze. Adrian. I set the phone down carefully, looked at her, waited for an explanation that couldn't possibly make this okay. How long? I asked quietly. I don't. That's not. How long have you been sleeping with Kyle? She closed the door behind her, walked to the table, sat down across from me, and for the first time since I'd met her, Olivia Mendez looked uncertain. 3 weeks, she finally said. 3 weeks. That meant it started right after I'd hired her to go after Kyle for the partnership dispute. Did he approach you, or did you approach him? Adrian, this isn't. Did he approach you, or did you approach him? He reached out, wanted to talk. Said there were things about the partnership situation I didn't understand. We met for coffee, just to talk, and it turned into an affair with the man I'm suing, the man you're supposed to be opposing on my behalf. She didn't answer. Have you shared information with him, Olivia? Attorney-client privileged information, my strategy, my evidence. No, God, no, Adrian, I would never. But you're sleeping with him while representing me against him. That's a conflict of interest. That's probably grounds for disbarment. Her face went pale. It's not. I kept everything separate. You never told me. You never disclosed this relationship. You let me sit here, meeting after meeting, trusting you, paying you, while you were fucking the man trying to destroy my business. The words hung in the air, harsh, ugly, true. I'm sorry, she whispered. I know it's not enough. But I'm so sorry. I stood up, started gathering my things. Adrian, wait, let me refer you to another attorney, someone good. I'll transfer all your files. There won't be any delay in. How much did you tell him? Nothing, I swear. I kept everything completely. You're lying, I can see it. What did you tell him, Olivia? She looked down at her hands. He knew you were planning to file for an injunction. He asked me when. I didn't give him specifics, but I might have implied that you were close to filing. So he had advance warning, time to prepare his defense, time to lock in the clients before I could stop him. Adrian, what else did you tell him? Nothing, that was it, just the timing of the injunction. I didn't believe her, but it didn't matter. The damage was done. You'll be hearing from my new attorney about transferring my files. Don't contact me again. I walked out, left her sitting there. Made it to the elevator before the full weight of what I'd discovered hit me. My business partner and my divorce attorney, working together, or at least connected in a way that compromised everything. Kyle had stolen my clients, and now I knew he'd also been sleeping with the one person I'd trusted to help me fight back. It was almost elegant in its cruelty. I sat in my car in the parking garage for 20 minutes, trying to breathe, trying to think, trying to figure out what to do next. First, I needed a new attorney, immediately, someone who could take over both cases, the divorce and the partnership dispute. Someone Kyle couldn't compromise. I made calls. Most of the good divorce attorneys in the city had conflicts. Either they'd worked with Lauren before or they knew Olivia and wouldn't take a case that involved allegations of misconduct against her. Finally, on my 9th call, I found someone, Gerald Hutchinson, 58, old school. Reputation for being absolutely ruthless. He agreed to meet me that evening. His office was nothing like Olivia's sleek glass tower. This was wood paneling, leather chairs, law books lining the walls. It looked like something from a movie about lawyers from the 1970s. Gerald himself was tall, gray-haired, wearing a three-piece suit. He listened to my story without interrupting. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair and steepled his fingers. "This is quite a mess you're in, Adrian." "I know. But it's also an opportunity. Olivia's misconduct. That's a gift. We can use this." "How?" "First, we file a complaint with the state bar, document everything. The affair, the conflict of interest, the breach of attorney-client privilege. Even if she only gave Kyle the timing of your injunction, that's enough. She'll probably be suspended, possibly disbarred. And my cases will request that all of her previous work be considered tainted. Anything she filed in your divorce, we'll challenge. Any strategy she developed in the partnership dispute, we'll argue it was compromised. We essentially get a do-over, but with the added benefit of Kyle looking like a manipulative predator who corrupted your attorney." I felt something like hope for the first time in weeks. "You think this could work?" "I think Kyle made a critical mistake. He thought he was clever, using his relationship with Olivia to gain an advantage. But he forgot that relationships that create evidence, communications, witnesses, patterns. We're going to excavate everything, and when we're done, he won't have a business left to steal." Gerald took both cases, filed all the necessary paperwork to substitute himself as my attorney, filed the bar complaint against Olivia, and started the process of reconstructing my legal strategy. The next 2 months were brutal. Kyle fought everything, denied the affair at first, until Gerald subpoenaed Olivia's phone records. Then he admitted it but claimed it started after the partnership dispute began, which was a lie we could prove with text message timestamps. Lauren's attorney tried to use my business problems against me in the divorce. Argued I was financially unstable, that I couldn't provide a stable home for the kids. Gerald countered by showing how Kyle's theft had caused the financial instability, and how Lauren's affair had triggered the cascade of disasters. Discovery in the partnership case revealed something even more disturbing. Kyle hadn't just stolen my clients. He'd been systematically undermining me with them for months. Subtle comments about my personal problems affecting my work, suggestions that the firm might not survive, positioning himself as the stable, reliable alternative, and Olivia. The bar investigation confirmed what I'd suspected. She'd given Kyle far more information than just the timing of my injunction. She'd shared my financial disclosures, my settlement proposals in the divorce, my witness list, everything. She was suspended from practice pending a full ethics hearing. Her career was essentially over. I should have felt vindicated, but mostly I just felt tired. The court date for the preliminary injunction arrived in late November. Gerald had spent weeks preparing. We had evidence, testimony, expert witnesses on partnership law and legal ethics. Kyle had his own attorneys. Expensive ones, but they were scrambling. The hearing was in front of Judge Patricia Morrison. She was in her 60s, former prosecutor, reputation for no-nonsense rulings. She listened to 3 days of testimony, reviewed hundreds of pages of documents, and then took the case under advisement. We waited 2 weeks for her ruling. When it came, it was devastating. For Kyle, Judge Morrison granted the preliminary injunction. Kyle was barred from working with any of our former clients pending final resolution of the case. She found clear evidence of breach of fiduciary duty, of client solicitation, of conspiracy with Olivia to gain unfair advantage. "Mr. Brennan's conduct," she wrote in her opinion, "represents a calculated betrayal of his partner's trust during a period of extreme personal vulnerability. His relationship with Mr. Cole's attorney crosses from merely unethical into potentially criminal territory. This court will not countenance such behavior." She ordered Kyle to return all client files, to cease all communications with former clients, to pay my legal fees to date, and most importantly, she ordered a forensic accounting of our firm's finances for the past 2 years. That last part, that was Gerald's idea, and it paid off spectacularly. The forensic accountant found something I'd never suspected. Kyle hadn't just been stealing clients. He'd been stealing money for 18 months. He'd been running expenses through the firm that weren't legitimate business expenses. Dinners with his mistress, charged as client entertainment. A business trip to Hawaii that was actually a vacation. New furniture for his home office that never ended up in our office. Personal credit card bills paid through firm accounts. In total, he'd embezzled nearly $90,000. That changed everything. This wasn't just a partnership dispute anymore. This was fraud, theft, criminal conduct. Gerald referred the forensic accounting to the district attorney's office. Within a week, Kyle was facing criminal charges. His expensive attorneys tried to negotiate, offered to return the clients, to repay the stolen money, to dissolve the partnership on favorable terms, but Gerald was ruthless. He pushed for maximum accountability. The criminal case moved forward, the partnership case moved forward, and my divorce case, with Olivia's misconduct exposed, suddenly shifted dramatically in my direction. Lauren's attorney tried to maintain their aggressive position, but Gerald hammered them with the affair. Her role in my personal problems that Kyle had exploited, with her unreasonable financial demands while I was fighting criminal betrayal by my business partner. The judge in the divorce case was sympathetic, especially after Gerald presented evidence that Lauren had known about Kyle's plans, that she and Kyle's wife had discussed it, that Lauren had actually encouraged Kyle to make his move while I was vulnerable. My soon-to-be ex-wife had been part of the conspiracy to destroy me in February. 7 months after that first email terminating my contract with Caldwell Industries, everything came to a head. Kyle pleaded guilty to embezzlement. He received 3 years probation, was ordered to repay the $90,000+ penalties, and was permanently barred from practicing as a consultant in our industry. The partnership was dissolved. I got the firm name, the remaining clients, all business assets. Kyle got nothing. My divorce was finalized. I got primary custody of the kids. Lauren got minimal alimony, limited to 3 years. She got none of my retirement. We split the house equity. But I got to keep living there with the kids, and Olivia Mendez was disbarred. Her career, built over 15 years of successful practice, was over. I should have felt triumphant, Victor triumphant, but mostly I just felt empty. My business was salvaged, but damaged. I'd managed to rebuild relationships with a few clients, brought in some new ones. But the firm would never be what it was. I'd had to downsize, move to a smaller office, cut staff. My marriage was over. Lauren and I barely spoke, even when coordinating about the kids. The woman I'd loved for 15 years, built a life with, was now a stranger I resented, and Kyle, my best friend, was broken. Last I heard, he was working as a project manager for some corporate consulting firm, making a fraction of what he used to earn. His wife had divorced him. He'd lost his house, his reputation. The revenge was complete, but it tasted like ashes. In late March, almost a year after everything started, I was in my new office, smaller but mine. I was working late, reviewing a proposal for a potential new client, when my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Adrian Cole, Mr. Cole. This is Detective Raymond Chen with the District Attorney's White-Collar Crime Unit. Do you have a few minutes? My stomach dropped. What's this about? We're conducting a follow-up investigation into the Kyle Brennan case. Some new information has come to light, and we'd like to speak with you. Would you be available to come in tomorrow? Can you tell me what kind of information? I'd prefer to discuss it in person. Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m., I agreed, hung up. Sat there wondering what the hell could possibly be left to investigate. Kyle had pleaded guilty. The case was closed. Gerald was out of town. Some conference in Boston. I called his office anyway. Left a message with his assistant. That night I barely slept. Again, I kept running through scenarios. What could the DA possibly want? The next morning I arrived at the district attorney's office at 8:45. Detective Chen met me in the lobby. He was younger than I expected. Maybe mid-30s, Asian American, wearing a sport coat and carrying a tablet. He led me to a small conference room. No windows, gray walls, a table and 4 chairs, very law enforcement. Thank you for coming in, Mr. Cole. Can I get you coffee, water? I'm fine. What's this about, detective? He sat across from me, opened his tablet, swiped through a few screens. As part of our ongoing investigation into white-collar crime in the legal sector, we've been looking deeper into the Olivia Mendez case, her relationship with Kyle Brennan, the nature of their communications. Okay. We subpoenaed all of her electronic communications going back 2 years. Emails, texts, cloud storage, everything. And we found something interesting. Communications between Olivia and Kyle going back much further than 3 weeks before you discovered the affair. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. How much further? 6 months. Right around the time Kyle started planning to leave your partnership and solicit your clients. 6 months. The same timeline Kyle had admitted to. But if he'd been communicating with Olivia for that long. Are you saying they were working together from the beginning? Detective Chen nodded slowly. It appears that way. The early communications are careful, vague, but the pattern is clear. Kyle was feeding Olivia information about your personal state of mind, your vulnerabilities, your focus on the divorce, and Olivia was, well, she was using that information to advise you in ways that benefited Kyle. What do you mean, your divorce case? The settlement proposals she made on your behalf. The custody arrangements she suggested. When we analyzed them with the benefit of hindsight, every single recommendation she made would have weakened your financial position and made you more dependent on the business income, which Kyle was planning to cut off. The room felt like it was tilting. She was sabotaging my divorce case to help Kyle destroy my business. That's what it looks like. But there's more. We found communications between Olivia and someone else. A woman. Named Lauren Brennan Cole, your ex-wife. I couldn't breathe. Lauren was communicating with Olivia extensively, going back 8 months before you even hired Olivia to handle your divorce. But how? I chose Olivia. I found her through a referral from Kyle. According to your initial intake forms, Kyle recommended Olivia to handle your divorce. The pieces fell into place with sickening clarity. Kyle had recommended my divorce attorney. The same attorney who was secretly communicating with my wife, who later started sleeping with Kyle, who sabotaged my legal strategy while feeding information to my enemies. This was all planned, I said quietly. From the beginning, Lauren's affair, the divorce, Kyle stealing my clients, Olivia undermining me from the inside, this was all coordinated. Detective Chen's expression was grim. We believe so. The communications suggest your wife and Kyle had been planning this for close to a year. They wanted to destroy you financially, emotionally, completely. Olivia was brought in as part of that plan. Why would they do this? Money, according to the communications we found. Kyle and your wife were planning to start a life together, but they needed capital. Your business was worth a significant amount, but only if Kyle could take the clients and leave you with the debt, your divorce settlement, if Olivia could manipulate it right. Would leave you paying alimony and child support you couldn't afford. You'd have to sell your share of the business, likely to Kyle at a desperate price. I felt sick. They were going to financially destroy me and then buy my half of the business for pennies on the dollar. That appears to have been the plan, and there's one more thing, your wife's affair with the tennis instructor. What about it? There was no tennis instructor, the affair she confessed to, the one that triggered your divorce. That was fabricated. She was having an affair, but it was with Kyle. The tennis instructor story was designed to hurt you, to make the betrayal feel personal, but to avoid connecting it to your business partner, at least until Kyle was ready to make his move. The tennis instructor didn't exist. Lauren and Kyle had been together the whole time. Everything, every single thing, had been a calculated lie designed to destroy me. Why are you telling me this, detective? Kyle already pleaded guilty. He's been sentenced. Because his guilty plea was only for embezzlement at the time. We didn't have evidence of the larger conspiracy, but now we do. We're reopening the case. Conspiracy to commit fraud, racketeering, potentially other charges, and we're bringing charges against your ex-wife and Olivia Mendez as well. Lauren is going to be charged. If we can prove she knowingly participated in a conspiracy to defraud you. Yes, based on the communications we found. We believe we can. I sat there trying to process it all. The scope of the betrayal was staggering. My wife, my business partner, my attorney, all working together, all playing their parts in an elaborate scheme to destroy my life. What do you need from me? Your cooperation, testimony, help reconstructing the timeline and the financial impact. This is going to be a complex case, but with your help, we can hold all of them accountable. I called Gerald from the parking garage. He answered on the third ring, sounding annoyed at being interrupted during his conference. Adrian, this better be important. I'm about to give a keynote. The DA is reopening the case against Kyle, and they're bringing charges against Lauren and Olivia. It was all a conspiracy from the beginning. Silence, then. Tell me everything. I did, by the time I finished. Gerald was no longer annoyed. He was energized. Adrian, this is huge. If they can prove conspiracy, RICO charges, we're talking serious prison. Time for all of them. I know. How do you feel? It was such a simple question. How did I feel? Vindicated, angry, relieved, tired, I finally said. Just really tired. That's understandable, but Adrian, you need to stay focused. This is the end game. This is where we make sure they never do this to anyone else. The next 6 months were consumed by the criminal investigation. The DA's office was thorough. They reconstructed every communication, every financial transaction, every decision point in the conspiracy. They found evidence that Lauren and Kyle had started their affair almost 2 years before I discovered it, that they'd spent months planning how to extract maximum value from destroying me, that they'd carefully researched divorce law, partnership law, even consulted with a financial planner about the best way to optimize the asset distribution. Olivia had been brought in specifically because she had a reputation for aggressive tactics and had questionable ethics. Kyle had found her through a colleague who'd used her in a messy divorce. She'd been promised a percentage of the business buyout, 20% of whatever Kyle paid me for my share of the firm. The tennis instructor, the fictional affair, had been Lauren's idea. She'd created a whole narrative, fake text messages, a burner phone, even went so far as to actually take tennis lessons at a club so there would be a paper trail. All of it designed to create a plausible affair story that would emotionally devastate me but wouldn't point to Kyle. The cruelty of it was breathtaking. The DA offered plea deals to all three. Olivia took hers first. She agreed to testify against Kyle and Lauren in exchange for a reduced sentence. 5 years, with possibility of parole after 3. Kyle held out longer. His attorneys argued that he'd already been sentenced for the embezzlement, that this was double jeopardy. But the DA had him cold on the conspiracy charges. Different crimes, different evidence, eventually, facing a potential 20-year sentence if convicted at trial. He took a deal, 12 years, no parole for 8. Lauren refused to deal. She maintained she'd done nothing wrong, that her relationship with Kyle had started after I'd hired Olivia, that she hadn't been part of any conspiracy. Her attorney, a different one now, tried to paint her as a victim herself. A woman swept up in Kyle's manipulative scheme. The DA didn't buy it. Neither did I, and when the case went to trial in October, the evidence was overwhelming. The jury deliberated for 6 hours, found her guilty on all counts. Conspiracy to commit fraud, conspiracy to commit embezzlement, racketeering. The judge sentenced her to 15 years. Our children, who were living with me, would be adults before their mother got out of prison. I should have felt something when the sentence was read. Satisfaction, maybe, justice, but I just felt hollow. The kids struggled. My daughter Emma was 14, old enough to understand what had happened. That her mother and my former best friend had tried to destroy me, that they'd lied about everything. She was angry, confused, hurt, refused to visit Lauren in prison when she first asked. My son Lucas was 11. He didn't fully understand, just knew that Mom had done something bad and now she was gone. He cried a lot, had nightmares, started seeing a therapist. I tried to be there for them, to be stable, to provide the home and security they needed. But I was drowning in my own trauma, my own anger and hurt and betrayal. I started seeing a therapist too, Dr. Kimberly Walsh. She specialized in trauma and betrayal, helped me work through the anger, the self-blame. The question that haunted me most, how had I missed it? You trusted the people you loved, Dr. Walsh told me in one session. That's not a failing, Adrian, that's being human. They exploited that trust, that's their failing. Not yours, but it didn't feel that way. I kept finding moments in my memory where I should have seen something. A look between Lauren and Kyle at a barbecue. The way Olivia had steered me toward certain financial decisions. The pattern of client meetings Kyle had scheduled, the clues had been there. I just hadn't wanted to see them. The business stabilized slowly. I brought in new partners, carefully vetted ones. We rebuilt the client base, developed new services. By the second year after the conspiracy was exposed, we were actually growing again, not at the same scale as before, but healthy, sustainable. I moved past the anger eventually, past the desire for revenge. What was the point? They were all in prison. Their lives were destroyed. Taking satisfaction in that, dwelling on it, would only poison me further. Dr. Walsh helped me reframe it, not as revenge, but as boundaries, as consequences for choices they'd made. They'd gambled on destroying another human being for profit, and they'd lost. That wasn't about me getting revenge. That was about justice. I started dating again. Nothing serious, but it helped to connect with people. To remember that not everyone was a liar. Not every relationship was a conspiracy. I reconnected with old friends, people I'd lost touch with during the chaos. Found that most of them were supportive, understanding, appalled at what had happened. There were a few who blamed me, who suggested I must have done something to deserve such elaborate betrayal. I cut those people out of my life without guilt. I didn't need that energy. 2 years after the original discovery, 3 years after the conspiracy began, I was sitting in my office on a Friday evening. The staff had gone home. The building was quiet. I was reviewing a proposal for a major new client, the kind of account that would really push us back into growth mode. My phone rang. Unknown number again, for a moment. I felt that old anxiety spike. But I answered anyway. Adrian Cole. Mr. Cole. This is Warden Phillips from the Federal Correctional Institution at Danbury. I'm calling about your ex-wife, Lauren Cole. My stomach clenched. What about her? She's requested a visit with you. She's asked me to reach out and see if you'd be willing to come. I hadn't seen Lauren since the sentencing, hadn't spoken to her, hadn't read her letters, and there had been letters, lots of them. I'd thrown them away unopened. Why does she want to see me? She didn't share that with me, sir. Just asked if I would reach out. You're under no obligation, of course, but I wanted to pass along the request. I should have said no immediately. There was nothing Lauren could say that I needed to hear, nothing that would change anything, but something made me hesitate. Can I think about it? Of course, you can call this number anytime if you decide you're willing. I hung up, sat there in the quiet office, thought about Lauren. About everything she'd done. About the person I thought she was versus the person she'd turned out to be. Dr. Walsh and I discussed it in our next session. Why do you think she wants to see you? She asked. I don't know, closure maybe, or maybe she wants to try to manipulate me one more time. Do you want to see her? No, but maybe I need to. Does that make sense? It makes perfect sense. Sometimes facing the person who hurt us can be part of healing. As long as we go in with clear boundaries and realistic expectations. Meaning don't expect an apology that makes everything okay. Don't expect her to suddenly become the person you thought she was. She's still the person who conspired to destroy you. But if you need to look her in the eye and speak your truth, if you need that for your own closure, then going might be worth it. I thought about it for a week. Finally, I called the warden's office back, scheduled a visit for the following Saturday. The drive to Danbury took 4 hours. I had a lot of time to think, to remember, to prepare myself. The prison was exactly what you'd expect. Concrete walls, razor wire guards, security checkpoints. I went through metal detectors, emptied my pockets, was patted down. Finally, I was shown into a visitation room, small tables, chairs bolted to the floor, vending machines along one wall. A few other inmates were visiting with family members, speaking in low voices. And then Lauren walked in. She looked older, thinner, her hair was shorter, graying at the temples. She wore standard prison khakis, no makeup, no jewelry. She looked like a stranger. She sat across from me. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. "Thank you for coming," she finally said. Her voice was hoarse, like she hadn't used it much recently. I didn't respond, just waited. "I've been writing you letters. I don't know if you've read them." "I haven't," she nodded, like she'd expected that. "Been trying to find the words to explain, to apologize, to make you understand why. There's no explanation that makes it okay, Lauren. You know that, right? There's nothing you can say that justifies what you did." "I know, but I need to try. I need you to hear it, please." I leaned back, crossed my arms. "Fine, I'm listening." She took a breath, looked down at her hands. It started. God, it started so small. Kyle and I were friends, our families were friends, and somewhere along the way, it became more than friendship. We tried to stop it. We really did, but we couldn't. So you decided to destroy me instead of just being honest and getting a divorce like normal people. Kyle had this idea that if we could get you to sell your half of the business for less than it was worth, we could start over together with enough money to build something better. So you plotted to financially destroy me, to emotionally devastate me, to take my children. All for money? It wasn't supposed to go that far, Kyle said. He said you'd be fine, that you'd land on your feet, that we were just optimizing the situation. Optimizing, I laughed. It came out bitter. You made up a fictional affair. You hired an attorney to sabotage my case. You coordinated with Kyle to steal my clients during the most vulnerable time of my life. That's not optimizing, Lauren. That's evil. Tears were running down her face now. I know, and I'm so sorry. I'm so fucking sorry, Adrian. I wake up every day and I hate myself for what I did to you, for what I did to our kids. I threw away everything for nothing, for Kyle. Kyle doesn't even write me, won't take my calls, whatever I thought we had. It was as fake as everything else. I should have felt vindicated, hearing that Kyle had abandoned her, that her grand plan had left her with nothing but a prison sentence, but I just felt tired. Why did you want to see me, Lauren? What do you want from me? She wiped her eyes. Permission. Permission for what? To write to the kids, to try to have a relationship with them. They won't respond to my letters, won't accept my calls, and I understand why, but I'm their mother, and I'm going to be here for a long time. I don't want to lose them completely. You should have thought about that before you committed multiple felonies. I know, but please, they're my children. I love them, despite everything I did. Despite how badly I fucked up, I love them. I looked at this woman I'd once loved, this stranger in prison khakis who'd tried to destroy my life, and I felt nothing, no anger, no hate, just a vast empty space where 17 years of history used to be. I'm not going to force the kids to have a relationship with you. That's their choice, but I won't prevent it either. If they want to write you, visit you, I'll support that when they're ready. Thank you. She was crying harder now. Thank you, Adrian. That's more than I deserve. It's not for you, it's for them. They need to make their own decisions about who their mother is. I'm not going to poison that well, even though you deserve it. We sat in silence for a minute. I stood up. Adrian, wait, there's one more thing. What? I need you to know, the person you thought I was, for most of our marriage, that was real. I really did love you. I really was happy. It was only these last few years that everything got twisted. That I became someone I don't even recognize. I don't know if that makes it better or worse, Lauren. The fact that you were capable of love, of being a good person, and then chose to become a monster anyway. I'm not asking you to forgive me. I just need you to know that those years weren't all a lie. Our kids weren't a lie. What we built together, that was real. I nodded, because maybe that was true. Maybe there had been real love once, before the greed and the conspiracy and the cruelty. But it didn't change anything. I walked out of the prison into the late afternoon sun, drove home with the windows down, letting the autumn air wash over me when I got home. Emma and Lucas were doing homework at the kitchen table. They looked up when I came in. Where were you? Emma asked. Told them I had a meeting. Hadn't wanted to explain about visiting their mother, but standing there, looking at their faces, I realized they deserved the truth. I went to see your mom. She's in prison in Connecticut. She wanted to talk. Lucas's eyes went wide. You saw Mom? I did. What did she say? Emma's voice was carefully neutral, trying not to show how much she cared. She misses you both. She wants to write to you, to have a relationship if you're willing. I told her that was your choice, not mine. Do you think we should? Lucas asked quietly. I sat down at the table with them. I think I think she's still your mom, despite everything she did, despite how badly she hurt our family, and I think someday, maybe not now, but someday, you might want to hear her side of things to understand who she is, and when that day comes, I'll support you. But you won't make us, Emma said. No, I won't make you. This is your decision. Emma nodded slowly. I'm not ready yet, maybe someday, but not yet. That's okay, sweetheart. There's no rush. Lucas looked uncertain. Can I think about it? Of course, buddy. Take all the time you need. We ordered pizza for dinner, watched a movie together, normal Friday night things, and for the first time in years, I felt like we were going to be okay, the kids and I, this fractured little family. We were going to survive this, maybe even thrive, a few months later. Lucas decided he wanted to write his mother, just a short letter, nothing deep, but a connection. Emma still wasn't ready. I didn't push either of them. The business continued growing. I dated a woman named Veronica, a professor at the local college. It didn't work out long-term. But it was healthy, no conspiracies, no lies, just two people trying to connect and ultimately realizing they weren't compatible. It felt almost refreshing to have a relationship end for normal reasons. I sold the house eventually. Too many memories, too many ghosts. Bought a smaller place closer to the kids' schools. Started over in a space that wasn't haunted by everything that had happened. Dr. Walsh and I worked through my trust issues. It was slow going. I caught myself questioning people's motives, looking for hidden agendas, assuming betrayal around every corner. That's normal, she told me. You experience profound betrayal by the people closest to you. Your brain is trying to protect you from experiencing that again, but you can't live your whole life in defensive mode. You'll miss out on genuine connection. How do I tell the difference between genuine connection and another? Conspiracy, you can't know for certain. That's the risk of being human, of loving people, of trusting, but the alternative, staying isolated and suspicious forever. That's not living, that's just existing. I started to rebuild trust slowly, let people in, made new friends, developed new business relationships, and gradually, the paranoia faded, not completely, but enough. 3 years after the sentencing, Kyle died in prison, heart attack. He was only 43. I got a call from his mother, asking if I wanted to attend the funeral. I declined, sent flowers instead. No card, just white roses. I didn't feel grief, didn't feel satisfaction, just a kind of sad acknowledgement that a life had been wasted, that someone who could have been good, who I'd once loved like a brother, had chosen a path that led to prison and an early death. Olivia was released after serving 3.5 years. I heard through the legal community that she'd moved to another state. Was working as a paralegal, would never practice law again. Lauren still has 12 years left on her sentence. Emma started writing her last year, short letters at first, then longer ones. She visits a few times a year. Lucas writes more often, calls sometimes. I don't interfere, don't ask what they talk about. It's their relationship with their mother, whatever they need from her. Whatever closure or understanding they're seeking, that's between them for me. The closure came gradually. Not from any grand confrontation or moment of forgiveness, just from the slow accumulation of days where I moved forward, where I built something new, where I proved to myself that I could survive complete betrayal and still be okay. Better than okay, actually. My firm is thriving now. We've expanded into new markets, hired talented people, built something sustainable and ethical. I made sure our partnership agreements have ironclad protections. Made sure our culture values honesty and transparency above all else. I'm dating someone seriously now. Her name is Patricia. She's a doctor. Works in emergency medicine. She's direct, honest, no games, no hidden agendas. When I told her my story about the conspiracy and the betrayal, she didn't run, didn't treat me like damaged goods, just listened and said, "That's horrible, but it's your past. I'm more interested in who you are now. Who I am now, that's the question, isn't it, after everything that happened? After being torn apart and rebuilt. Who am I? I'm someone who knows that trust is precious because it can be destroyed so completely. I'm someone who values honesty because I've lived through the consequences of lies. I'm someone who understands that people are capable of incredible cruelty, but also incredible resilience. A father raising 2 kids who have had to learn hard lessons about betrayal and justice and forgiveness. I'm a business owner who built something from ruins. I'm a man who survived an elaborate conspiracy designed to destroy him, and came out stronger, not unscathed. The scars are there, the wariness, the moments of doubt, but I survived, and sometimes, on the good days, I even thrive. 5 years after that first email. The one that started everything crumbling. I was sitting in my office, a corner office again. Bigger firm, better view. My phone rang. It was Emma. She was away at college now, studying business law. Following in the footsteps of the profession that had once betrayed me, but determined to do it better. Hey Dad, just wanted to check in. How are you? I'm good, sweetheart, really good. How are classes? Brutal, but good. Hey, I talked to Mom this weekend. Yeah, how's she doing? She's okay. She asked about you, actually, asked if you were happy. I looked out the window at the city below, the river, the bridges, the late afternoon sun turning everything gold. What did you tell her? I told her yes. That you've moved on, that you're building a good life, she cried, said she was glad, that you deserve to be happy. I felt something in my chest, not forgiveness exactly, but maybe acceptance, that Lauren was a person who'd done terrible things, who destroyed what we had, but who might, somewhere in that prison cell, actually regret it. Thanks for telling me, sweetheart. Dad, I'm proud of you for how you handled everything, for not letting it destroy you. I had helped you and Lucas, Gerald. Dr. Walsh, a lot of people. Still, you could have become bitter, could have let the anger consume you, but you didn't. You built something better instead. After we hung up, I sat there thinking about her words, built something better. That was the real victory, wasn't it? Not the prison sentences or the financial compensation or the vindication. The real victory was refusing to let their betrayal define me, refusing to become the bitter, paranoid, broken person they could have turned me into. I chose differently. Chose to rebuild, to trust again, to love again, to believe that most people are good. Even after encountering people who were very much not good, that was my revenge in the end, not destroying them. Though they'd been destroyed by their own choices, but building a life so full and rich and genuine that their conspiracy became just a chapter. Not the whole story, a painful chapter. A defining chapter maybe, but not the end. The sun was setting. The office was quiet. In a few minutes I'd leave, drive to Patricia's place. We were cooking dinner together, maybe watch a movie, simple Friday night things, normal, peaceful, good, and as I packed up my laptop and turned off the lights, I realized I couldn't remember the last time I'd woken up angry. The last time I'd thought about Kyle or Lauren or Olivia with that burning rage that used to consume me. The anger had burned itself out, left me with something better, understanding, strength. Knowledge that I could survive anything. They'd tried to destroy me. They'd failed, and in failing, they'd helped me become someone stronger than I'd ever been before, someone who'd been tested in ways most people never are, who'd faced betrayal from every direction, who'd lost everything and built it back. That was the story I'd tell my grandchildren someday. Not about the conspiracy or the courtroom drama or the prison sentences, but about resilience, about choosing to rebuild rather than to crumble. About trusting again after trust had been shattered, about refusing to let other people's cruelty define who you become. I walked out of the office, locked the door behind me, and headed toward whatever came next, with hope, with peace, with the quiet confidence of someone who'd survived the worst, and discovered he was stronger than he ever knew.